It stated unequivocally, "From all the occupied countries, Jews are being transported in conditions of appalling horror and brutality to Eastern Europe." In Poland, which the Nazis had transformed into their primary slaughterhouse, the victims of these bloodthirsty atrocities were counted in the many hundreds of thousands, entirely innocent men, women, and children. The governments of the United Kingdom, the United States, the Soviet Union, and the French National Committee, along with representatives of the occupied nations, issued a solemn condemnation in the strongest possible terms of this bestial policy of cold-blooded extermination. They vowed that those responsible for these crimes would not escape retribution and pledged to pursue the necessary practical measures to ensure justice. For many who had long pleaded for action, the declaration offered a glimmer of hope, a signal that the Allies were finally acknowledging the genocide and committing to hold the perpetrators accountable. Yet, in truth, the statement also served a subtler purpose: to reassure deeply concerned citizens, Jewish organizations, and exiled governments that something, anything, was being done to confront the mass killings, even as concrete rescue efforts remained painfully limited, particularly of Jews. Yet deep-rooted anti-Semitism permeated both British and American society, and no official dared risk the perception that the Allies were prioritizing Jewish lives over the urgent imperative of winning the war swiftly and decisively. As a result, the joint declaration marked the limit of Allied action, strong words unaccompanied by deeds. It would take months more, along with relentless pleas from courageous informants, before any serious deliberation on intervention even began. Among those pleas, one stood out: the desperate, life-risking warnings from a man trapped inside the inferno, who watched the slaughter accelerate by the day and smuggled out urgent alerts at the peril of his own life. That man was none other than Witold Pilecki, the Polish resistance fighter who had voluntarily infiltrated Auschwitz nearly 2 years earlier and was now enduring an unrelenting nightmare within its barbed wire hell. From the very heart of the camp, he had watched, powerless yet resolute, as the Nazis perfected the machinery of the final solution. They had taken a terrifying leap forward in the industrialization of death. Auschwitz was vastly expanded, and a new satellite camp, Birkenau, had risen nearby. There, 4 massive gas chamber and crematorium complexes now operated at full capacity, turning mass murder into a chillingly efficient assembly line. Nowhere else in the Auschwitz complex had the rationalization of extermination reached such cold, methodical perfection. By 1943, the scale of the horror had become apocalyptic. Day after day, Pilecki watched the trains roll in, crammed with Jews deported from every corner of occupied Europe. Those deemed unfit for labor, children, the elderly, the sick, were marched straight from the ramp to the gas chambers. In a single day, the Germans could murder up to 4,000 people. Entire transports were liquidated without mercy. The sheer scale of the slaughter demanded a response, an urgent intervention from the Allies. Yet pressure for action also mounted from within the Polish resistance and Jewish leaders who pleaded for measures to halt the extermination. Pilecki spared no effort to get these desperate warnings out. His reports reached the outside world largely through the bravery of Polish civilian workers employed at the camp, men and women who lived beyond the barbed wire and could smuggle messages past the guards. The resistance fighter could not comprehend the silence. Why was no one responding? London seemed asleep, or worse, indifferent. At least acknowledge us, he thought. Tell us you've received the reports. Wait another year or two. Prepare in silence. But there was nothing. No word, no answer, no sign that the world beyond the wires intended to act. Frustrated and convinced he needed to deliver his warnings in person, Pilecki made a fateful decision. He had to reach Warsaw and confront the leadership of the Polish underground directly. He would escape the camp himself. On the night of Easter Monday, April 26, 1943, when many SS officers were away on leave and surveillance was unusually lax, Pilecki and 2 trusted comrades working in the camp bakery seized their chance. By the early hours of April 27th, under cover of darkness, they executed their meticulously planned breakout. It was well past midnight. The loaves had just been slid into the massive ovens, and for a fleeting moment the night shift prisoners were allowed a brief respite. The guards, distracted and preoccupied with their own routines, paid little attention. Seizing the narrow window of opportunity, Pilecki and his two comrades moved swiftly. In minutes, they had snipped the telephone alarm wires and loosened the heavy iron bar securing the bakery door. With a creak of rusty hinges, they pushed the door open. Beyond it lay freedom, dangerous, uncertain freedom in a countryside crawling with patrols and informants, where every shadow could mean capture or death. Yet even that perilous open air was infinitely preferable to the barbed wire hell they left behind. After 947 harrowing days in captivity, Witold Pilecki was finally free. In a photograph taken shortly after the escape, he stands between his two bakery comrades, the men who risked everything alongside him. He is painfully gaunt, his face etched with the toll of years in Auschwitz, yet his smile radiates unmistakable relief and defiance. He had emerged from the abyss, and now, with single-minded urgency, he was determined to force the world to confront what he had witnessed, a genocide of unimaginable scale. Something, anything, had to be done to stop the camp while there was still time, while thousands could yet be saved. Every day that passed meant thousands more lives extinguished in the gas chambers and crematoria. Back in Warsaw, Pilecki wasted no time. He immediately set to work compiling a detailed account of his 2.5 years inside Auschwitz. The resulting document, a stark 20-page testament, became known as Witold's Report. We obtained a rare copy and for the first time presented here in full translation. Though Pilecki had no knowledge of the broader Nazi machinery behind the final solution, his eyewitness observations are chillingly precise, every word grounded in what he heard, saw, and endured firsthand. Page after page recounts the horrors in unflinching detail. One passage in particular exposes the cruel deception the Nazis employed to prevent panic among the victims, especially the women as they were herded toward the gas chambers. The guards would hand each woman a small bar of soap and a towel, calmly instructing them that they were simply going for a shower to be deloused, and convincing them they were simply heading for a routine shower and delousing. At other times, the Nazis dispensed with the charade altogether. A hatch in the ceiling would slide open and the Zyklon B pellets rained down, releasing their lethal gas. Pilecki's report also laid bare the staggering industrial scale of the killing. He meticulously detailed the capacity of the crematoria. "We calculated," he wrote, "that operating in 2 shifts and loading 2 bodies per muffle, the 2 largest crematoria alone could incinerate roughly 5 million corpses in a single year." Once completed, Pilecki immediately dispatched his report to the Polish Home Army Command in Warsaw. From there, it was swiftly relayed to the Polish government in exile in London, another desperate attempt to jolt the Allies into action before the death machine consumed even more lives. That is how Witold Pilecki's testimony finally reached the highest levels of the Allied command. The Polish Home Army leadership in Warsaw, recognizing the critical importance of his first-hand account, arranged for his immediate transfer to London. There he was handed over to the British authorities. The British, eager for precise intelligence, pressed him for every detail, above all for detailed maps and layouts of the Auschwitz complex. Witold's report thus took its place alongside the growing mountain of evidence already in Allied hands, reports from escaped prisoners, intercepted signals, and earlier warnings like Edward Schulte's. Taken together, they left no room for doubt. The Nazi extermination of Europe's Jews was not rumor or exaggeration, but a methodical, ongoing reality. Several months later, in the spring of 1944, serious discussion finally began among the Allies about a direct intervention, whether to bomb the camp's rail lines, the gas chambers themselves, or the crematoria, to halt or at least slow the relentless pace of the massacre, was finally taking shape. Jewish organizations, growing ever more desperate, proposed a direct measure to disrupt the relentless flow of death trains. Allied air forces should bomb the railway lines leading to Auschwitz and other extermination camps.